The iPhone 17e, an iPhone with a flagship camera and chip for $600. We could go over the specs, but we won't. Because what looks at first glance like a simple spec bump is actually a direct consequence of global crisis and instability, and its release symbolically coincides with the war in Iran. Beyond that, it is direct evidence of a tectonic shift within Apple, specifically within their value system and ideals, and a clear statement about what awaits us in the future. To better understand why this isn't just a spec bump, let's rewind a year. In 2025, Apple unexpectedly released the iPhone 16e as a budget offshoot of the main lineup. Many saw it as a replacement for the beloved SE series, but sales exceeded expectations, and the phone entered the top 10 best-selling smartphones in the world. Given its success, continuing the lineup is the logical next step. But there was something unique about the iPhone 16e. In their keynotes, Apple loves to manipulate data without outright lying to present reality from a highly favorable angle. This is especially true on their graphs. Yet, at the iPhone 16e launch, they kept quiet about a very interesting advantage: their proprietary custom-designed modem, which was actually noticeably more powerful and energy efficient than its competitors. The two main theories for this are clear. First, it was a new development that needed real-world testing, so it was better not to draw attention to something potentially unstable. Second, they didn't want to cannibalize sales of their premium models by admitting that the cheapest phone contained hardware superior to even the ultimate Pro Max. I believe both reasons are valid, but why now? Journalist Trip Mickle, in a New York Times article titled "The Looming Taiwanese Chip Disaster Silicon Valley Ignored for Too Long," reports that Tim Cook has been warned about a potential Chinese takeover of Taiwan as early as 2027. But regardless of how true that is, we can already see the fallout. Triggered by a major war in Europe, new armed conflicts worldwide, and now a large-scale war involving the US and Israel in Iran, globalization is shrinking. Supply chains are breaking. Trump's isolationism is fundamentally altering how tech giants envision the future and build a future-proof model. And for Apple, the C1 chip is a crucial step in reducing their reliance on Taiwanese supply lines. I am not an engineer, so I can't precisely evaluate the extent of this dependency. Sources and analysts state contradicting things with absolute certainty. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that further destabilization and deglobalization have already driven the creation of the iPhone 16e and its transition into an annual release with the iPhone 17e. But on this channel, we usually talk about positioning, design, and the psychology of technology. How does all of this connect to the geopolitical situation? It connects directly. If the iPhone 16e could be viewed as just another Apple experiment, the release of the 17e confirms a fundamental shift in paradigm and positioning, one deeply tied to the global climate. It clearly demonstrates that Tim Cook's old Apple largely fails to meet the challenges of the modern world. It seems Apple understands this and is changing at a foundational level. This is also reflected in rumors regarding the likely appointment of John Ternus as Apple's next CEO. But what exactly does that mean? Let's look at the $500 Mac Mini. It's not just an inexpensive computer with a good chip. People are buying it to deploy OpenClaw and stacking it to run large LLMs for a reason. It was already one of the best value for money solutions, but with rising RAM prices, its value has skyrocketed. At this point, it's safe to say it has absolutely no competitors in its price bracket. The Mac Mini is the ultimate computer for the money. We used to say that about Xiaomi. About Apple, we used to say that yes, it's more expensive, but you're paying a premium for a unique experience, the operating system, the ecosystem, and unparalleled build quality. But that matters less and less. The platform itself is becoming less significant on a global scale. Furthermore, the quality of design, once Apple's unique advantage, is declining while competitors are catching up. Yes, partly because they copy and refine Apple's good ideas, but for this conversation, the why is irrelevant. The fact itself is what matters. Design is no longer a competitive advantage, or at least not a major one. We talk about this often. Apple is no longer the Apple we knew for inventing design patterns and creating entirely new markets. Apple transformed long ago into an ultra-optimized logistical and product genius. Essentially, it became a reflection of Tim Cook. Naturally, nostalgia makes us wish they would revert to who they were when they launched the first MacBook Air, iPhone, iPad, and iPod. Speaking of old devices, I recently wrote an article about retro gadgets, their connection to brain science and well-being, and why the vintage trend might actually make us happier. It went out a couple of weeks ago in my weekly email digest. You can subscribe to it via the link in the description. It's free. But expecting a new iPod or a revolutionary iPhone from Apple is unfortunately impossible. The good news is that Apple isn't standing still. Just as the Mac Mini became the best value on the market, the new E series of smartphones is now top tier for the money. Apple is preparing for massive global challenges, broken supply chains, resource conservation, and a shortage of materials, whether intellectual manufacturing or even environmental. And they are preparing for this not through Cook's logistical genius, but through a hardcore engineering approach. Not the design engineering of Jobs, but the grounded, optimization-first approach of Ternus. To me, this looks like a highly logical, future-proof strategy. And it's actually a very good one for us, the end users. Jobs' Apple was about giving us a unique experience. Cook's Apple was about making the most money while spending the least, which partly meant finding new ways to convince us to spend. Ternus' Apple is about achieving maximum performance with minimum resources, which means giving us top-tier products for our money. We don't know yet if Ternus will be the new CEO. We still aren't certain that Cook will actually step down anytime soon, but we can confidently speak to a paradigm and positioning shift that has already happened at Apple. We are in for more new products exactly like the iPhone 17e, products with no pretension of showcasing anthropological design. In that sense, the new Apple won't just stop striving for design leadership. They will actively lag behind Google. To see why and how this is already happening, watch our video on how liquid glass turned out to be visually stunning, yet objectively dragged Apple's design level down 2 notches.